All right, all right. Hello, my beautiful humans. Come on in. Welcome back. This has been such a fun fall extravaganza. I'm having so much fun. I'm loving listening to everyone's brilliant sessions. I'm loving everyone's engagement. So welcome to everyone coming into the Zoom. Hello, Melissa. Hi, Sam. Hello to everyone logging in on Facebook. And hello to everyone on the replay. I am so honored you're here. And we have some very good news. We are about halfway through our speakers. We have another one tomorrow, and we have another one on Tuesday next week. We are hosting a bonus call, a bonus celebration call, and we are going to be doing a giveaway. So if you, hi Austin, I see in the Facebook group, when you engage any of these sessions, whether you attend live or watch a replay, but you're commenting and you're letting us know that you're here, your name gets entered into the drawing. Or if you post in my thread that I posted last night saying, what's been one of your biggest takeaways in the extravaganza so far? When you post in there, you get entered into the giveaway. So just seeing that you're here, you're active, you're absorbing the information, the connections, the conversations, your name will be entered into the drawing. And we are going to do that together. Let me pull up my calendar here real quick. On Monday, November 27th at 1 p.m. Pacific time. This is our bonus call where we'll be giving away prizes. We have some very, very exciting things planned for it. So please be there. Hello, Carleen Berg. So good to see you. Woo, we are so excited. We just want to bless and we want to give and we want to support. And that's really the intention behind this fall extravaganza, is bringing these people of such brilliance and geniusness and skills and heart and have them share what they have to offer, because I really believe they all have something to help you in your journey. And that's what we're here for. Yes, a bonus call. So I am so thrilled to introduce you to our next speaker. Colleen is absolutely genius. I'm always in awe of her. She is a mother of four, which in and of itself is a feat. Okay. You add on top of that she homeschools her children. Add on top of that, she's a full-time entrepreneur, and she has mastered the art of maximizing profit and peace. And I feel like this is all that which we crave. We all crave more profit. We all crave staying in our peace. And Colleen has simple, smart, tactical ways to simplify and automate all of that. So please welcome to the table, Colleen, and give her a warm welcome. Colleen, thank you so much for being here.
Yay. Thank you, Nicole. I'm really excited for today. I was sharing with Nicole before we started, like, typically you're going to learn this about me, but typically I'm like a very structured, like planned person, but today I'm just going with the flow. So we're just going to do it real flowy. I'm just going to practice that. So anytime anybody has questions, feel free to pop those in there. I want to answer as many of those as I can. But as Nicole said, I'm a mom of four. I homeschool, I own multiple businesses. And I help business owners specifically optimize their systems and their teams so they can maximize their profits and their passion. So one reason I'm so really into SOPs, standard operating procedures. I think it's because I got my start working on cruise ships in 2007, so 16 years ago. And when you're a floating hotel in the middle of the ocean, you've got to have your shit together. You have no choice but to have it together. And they were really, really good at making sure their procedures and their policies and everything was documented and followed and trained, and onboarding was really smooth. And the other thing I teach a lot about is employee turnover, where cruise ships actually had employee turnover of about 30 to 60 new employees a week. So if you don't have it together, then that ship's going down. It's not going to be a great thing. So I credit a lot of what I do and what I know to working on cruise ships. I then a little bit later on started my own wedding planning business. And I was serving a very unique part of the market, which was DIY brides, because nobody was helping them because people viewed it as they didn't have the money. So they didn't get the service, right? And it wasn't so much they didn't have the money. They didn't have the money for the services that were being provided. So I created and developed new services that better aligned with their budget and what they needed. And in doing so, I quickly realized I didn't as much love doing the planning and the setup and the breakdown and all these different services that I had created. I really loved growing and developing, and I really loved having a team. And in order to do that, I needed to make sure that I had the right foundations and systems and SOPs and processes, because I eventually ended up growing from just Austin to then also Houston and Dallas, Texas. And I had a remote team of 11 employees. So not just a team that's within house that I can go to at any moment and say, hey, do this thing, or here's how you do this. I had a remote team, and a lot of them were novice in the industry. Like I hired them to train them. So I had to make sure that my systems and my processes were where they need to be. And then I just want to share, before I dive into the details of all this, one really key story in terms of like help paint a picture of why SOPs are so important, especially if you're a business owner. And I'll get into later, like about, juggling things as in your personal life as well. But as a business owner, trying to really maximize those profits. So when I worked in corporate, in hotels and hospitality, I've always had catering and sales for the most part in my title. So I was a catering sales manager, which basically meant I was a sales manager and event planner for hotels and country clubs and wherever. And then eventually the job that I had right before I started this, I was a director of sales for a large 5-property resort. So we had 2 really big hotels, we had 2 motels, an apartment complex, and an RV park. And that particular hotel, about 90% of their revenue came from group sales. And that was eventually my department. Meaning like, so there's group sales and then there's leisure. Leisure is like when people just travel in on their own, they just take a little vacation. And the group sales is like your conferences and your conventions. And what happened was, before I got there, 8 months beforehand, the director of sales before me had left. And so this position had been vacant for 8 months. There were no policies, there were no procedures, there was nothing written down. There was no way that the team that was there could have known what to do, or if anybody new was hired. They were floundering and trying to figure it out on their own. And you can imagine that a company that depends on this one department to bring in millions of dollars, 90% of their revenue, that they just were left on their own. And so when I got there, one of the first things that I did, obviously, was implement SOPs, not only to help my team, but also to help me, because I came in and I didn't know anything about what was going on. I've done this job a lot. I've done it in a lot of different places, but I don't necessarily know how it works in this particular organization. So it was about finding out how that worked with where I was. And to this day, the person who came in after I left still says how helpful it was to have all those SOPs. And it wasn't just helpful for her, it was helpful for the team that when I left, and it was also helpful for the company because they weren't losing all that profit. And as a director of sales or working in sales, I know the importance that is put upon revenue. But your revenue means really nothing. Like, it means nothing if you have all these super stealthy profit eaters in the background of your business eating away at all your profits, right? The point is profit. The point isn't revenue, it's profit. So we can have these really high goals for revenue, but like the operations side, when I was working in hotels, I could bring in millions of dollars. But if the operations, if employee turnover, if inefficient systems is taking away all that profit, then there's really no point. So I just want to make that point. So before I continue, is there anything that you have, Nicole?
Wow, I'm loving all of this. I'm still floored by the cruise ship story. First of all, I didn't know you had that in your background. I never considered how you absolutely have to have your shit together in the middle of the ocean. There is no plan B. Like, you have to make sure
for us.
everything is working. Everyone is working. Like, if you do not have your systems figured out and your flow figured out, like, you all are fucked. Like, I've never, ever thought of that. And what an extraordinary lesson for you, because now you've brought that awareness, knowledge, and skills to all your other businesses and roles. And I'm just like, holy crap. And I loved what you said at the end right there. People, the point isn't revenue, it's profit. Because I think sometimes at least in the online space, especially in the world that I'm in, I think we oversimplify. Like, I made this much money, but no one talks about what their back end costs are. I had this big of a launch, but they don't talk about how much of that is cash and how much of that's future payments that as long as no one drops, like, it's way more nuanced. And so I just love how you just like bring it back to the truth, which is you got to have profit left over. And if there are things eating at your revenue to where you're not having profit, you're going to find yourself in a really bad situation. So I would actually love for you to go deeper down that. But before you do, I want to read, there's a few comments coming in here. Austin wrote, people leave because of inefficient systems. Damn.
Yeah.
Terry wrote, excellent communicator. Austin said, yeah, you are all fucked. Correct. Ooh, Carleen said, this is all new to me too. Such good examples. Back end costs. Yeah. Keeping it real and transparent. This is so good. So yeah, I would love for you to share a little bit more about that, about how do you maximize your profit and not make it all about revenue? What
Yeah.
are some either common mistakes people are not aware of? What's some good tips that people should know from you? I'd love to hear.
Yeah, I think the biggest mistake that I see, actually there's many mistakes, but let's start with one, is that they depend as a company, as a business, when you have a team, I've seen people depend only on one employee or a couple employees' knowledge, like that's in their head. And so it's just in their head. And so as an example, there was a guy that I worked with at the resort, and he had been there forever, and was a whiz at the diagram, like that the diagrams, the setup of rooms. And keep in mind, we have over 50 spaces, anywhere from 10 employee or 10 meetings for 10 to up to 2,000. And he has all this in his head. And I kept bringing up, hey, we really need a diagramming system, because those things exist. Like, it's a software that exists nowadays. Like, we really need a diagramming system so we can be capturing and recording this information. Number one, just to have it to make it more efficient. Number two, though, if and when he leaves, because this company culture is not super great, we're going to be screwed. And they never wanted to spend, I think, probably $60 like a month. Never wanted to spend the $60 a month because it wasn't in the budget. But what ended up happening was he left. And the cost of him leaving and taking with him all that company information was, I mean, thousands upon thousands more than it would have been just to get a diagramming software. And I think that's the thing that I talk about a lot. And I know not everybody here has big teams, but that employee turnover factor is huge. It's actually suggested by studies that it can cost an organization, just one employee, just losing one employee can cost them tens of thousands of dollars, up to 2 times that person's salary, just depending on like the organization and that person's particular role. So it's really important that we're thinking about that, even though we're not seeing it on paper. That's the problem a lot of times, is like we're budgeting for all these things that we can like invoice and like go into bookkeeping and see, well, things like turnover aren't there. Things like inefficient systems aren't there, but they're still costing your organization an enormous amount of money. So I think that's one thing, is just to make sure that things that are living inside people's heads is actually coming and getting documented onto paper.
Someone asked about that specifically. Is there an app you like for flowcharts, free and paid?
Flow charts. Could you explain?
Kind of what you're like, the diagramming. Like, is there an
Oh,
app or software or websites, free or paid, that you would recommend for
yeah.
people to check out?
Yeah. So if it's diagramming, so the diagramming that we would use it for is like how to set up tables and chairs and things like that. A lots of times that lives within another database, like Delphi is a big thing in the sales world. And then there's also standalone products like Mary. I think their website's Be Mary, MERRI, is a really good one. All Seated. Those are just a few. Most of them are paid. Some of them had free versions at one point or another, but I think they're all paid at this point. But it's not, again, if that's something that your company needs, it's not a big investment versus what you're going to be paying for it should things go the other way.
And I just want to say, if you have a smaller team, like I have a smaller team, and something we did a couple of years ago is that very thing. It lived all inside of each of my team members' heads. And I'm like, if one of you leaves, I'm screwed. Like, I knew this as the boss and as the employer. And so we finally took time, which it never feels like you have time, because you're juggling a million things and you're always preparing the next thing while cleaning up that thing, but you just have to. And so what we did is I had them just do even like Loom recordings, like screen record, like if they're doing stuff online that is all automatic in their head, but if they left and I had to replace them, I don't know how to necessarily teach them everything. And so we created a file or a Dropbox folder with all the trainings of, here's how I do this function online. Here's how I do this function online. And it might seem simple and dumb, but like I'd rather it be simple and dumb than that person leaves and we're screwed. So like even something as simple, just get it out of your head onto something that other people can watch, read, look at, learn from, so that you aren't screwed when your team members change.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's an important part too, is, not only are you getting it out of your head and onto paper, you're making, I talk a lot about TUX, or team user experience. Like there's a lot of emphasis, especially in the hospitality industry, on user experience for customers or customer service versus your team service and how you're serving your teams. And if they're coming into a chaotic situation, if you have spent this time, invested this time in finding this right person, and they're getting on board, and like it's just, that's a sinking ship, they're gonna hop right back off. And then all that time that you've spent and invested in bringing them on, and maybe you spent some time training them too, having a few meetings, all that time is wasted. So I really emphasize people like making sure that things are documented, making sure that your onboarding process is just really stellar, because that's the first impression. First impressions matter to customers and clients as much as they matter to your team members. And then the other thing that I'll just say to that, I'm going on a tangent, but I want to say this, is I talk a lot about with this team user experience is, there's a lot of emphasis put on performance reviews and exit reviews. And a lot of people don't even do reviews at all. But performance reviews are very transactional. It's like, you do this for me, I'll do this for you, which if it's part of a bigger picture, fine. But if it's the only thing you're doing, to me, it's just way too transactional. And then an exit review is just way too late for your business. Like, no employee has gotten to that point of wanting to quit and then wants to spend their time sitting with you and telling you how you can make it better for future employees, right? And I view it a lot like I canceled my Disney Plus subscription recently. And like the next day, I got an email. It was like, hey, take our survey and tell us why did you leave? And it's like, you should have never let me get to that point. You should have been finding out along the way how I was finding it, how I was enjoying it. I'm done. Like, I have made that decision to leave at this point. And that's the same for employees. So instead of doing those two reviews, or only doing those reviews, you can do them. But I always recommend implementing a biannual, so 2 times a year, stay review. And what this does is it really understands the employee's aspirations and goals and challenges and feedback in real time. So it helps them know that they're valued and that you care. And it also makes sure that you're on the same page, moving in the same direction, which is going to have an enormous impact on your company culture and your profit margins. So I know that's a little off tangent. It's not like true SOP, except that you can put that into like an SOP flow that you do. But I like to mention that because I see that happen so many times. So many times employees are sitting back and they're holding on to like this grudge, or like they're angry about this thing, and the employer has no idea because they never asked, and they think that they're doing all the right things the way that they need to do. They don't have no idea how their team's truly feeling, and until it's too late, and then they're sending them like, hey, you want to do this exit review? No, like, you've burnt that bridge. I'm done. So
I freaking love that. That is a great way to increase your potential for profit, is if you like having an employee or team member retention rate, right? So you're not having to constantly lose and retrain and lose and retrain. Like, that is bleeding energy. It's bleeding money. It's building resentment. If you can find someone, I love this thing that you called it. I've never heard the term stay review. I love that. I call them check-ins. Right. I check in with my team member, but I like the idea of stay review, because the same thing, like a year from now, I have to ask my team members every year, but I like this idea of biannually, like, where are you? What are your aspirations? Because and instead of being afraid of like, but if they tell me they have this big dream over here and has nothing to do with my company, well, I'd rather know now than 6 months later when they're thinking about quitting. So we have a very like transparent relationship with my team members. I'm like, where are you at? How are you feeling? Like, what do you love about working about me? What are the things you want to change? What are your plans for yourself? Because I want to support them in their ambitions. And then we talk about, like, I have a team member who wanted a little bit more flexibility with their hours so they could have more time for their stuff over here, but they have no intention of leaving. I wouldn't have known that had I not asked, because I do think in that dynamic between like boss and contractor or boss and employee, there is a hesitation. There is an intimidation. Even though I constantly tell my team members, you can tell me anything, I'm a very safe person, there's still a bit of this dynamic of like, well, she's the boss and so I love that you recommend, like, it's our job to check in, and it's our job really as the boss of our company or the boss of our business, the boss of our vision, to make sure we are initiating conversations and check-ins and stay reviews, so that we make sure we're all on the same board. And if not, what can we do to shift things accordingly? And that can lead to a whole lot more peace and a whole lot more profit by being on the front end of that. That is so good, Colleen. So good.
And I love what you said too. Like, I always make sure that piece is in there about what can I improve on? Like, where am I lacking that you need more support, that I need to do differently? And two, like, I always tell business owners, like, the onus is not on your employee to make sure that your company is to a point that it can be sustained, and can scale. Like, that's not your employee's fault. That's yours. So you need to make sure that you put these systems in place to be able to do that. And the other thing that I love about stay reviews, and this will be the last thing I talk about it, but is I use them for benchmarking. So like we meet, that's why I say 2 times a year, because you meet one time, you find out, I do a scale as one of the questions, like, tell me on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you at with this particular thing? And so maybe they say a 3. The goal is not to get perfect by the next time. The goal is to improve it from a 3. And the goal is to see if they said one time they were a 9, and then they slid back down to a 6. Why did we slide? Was it just the day that you took this review, or is there something bigger that we need to talk about there? Because I want to get you back up to where you originally were. So yes.
Oh, this is so freaking good. We have a bunch of comments. We say, let's see, there's so much here. Okay, where is it? Love that you mentioned this. This is about the organic updates, the SOP based on feedback, making employees feel seen and heard. Hi, Sean. We're glad you're here. Workers love when you're doing an SOP to work with them side by side. Someone else said that was 100% my experience with past employers that lost so many great staff due to exactly what you said. Stay reviews are genius. Austin wrote, where am I lacking? Onus is on the CEO. Benchmarking reminds me of this book, Don't Mark My Paper, Help Me Get an A. It's like bi-weekly check-ins for what you need and gets fulfilled. I love it. I was going to say something else about this, about check-ins, stay reviews. God, what was it? It'll come back to me, but this is just so good about kind of creating a culture and an environment where everyone flourishes. And this reminds me, and putting the onus like on the boss. Like we've talked about this in our membership before, where a boss expects you, the contractor, to save them. And like you have to come in and save their company. That's not your job. That is the responsibility of those in power, those with the vision, those who started this. So thank you for reminding people of that, Colleen. Like it's on you as the employer or as the boss, not on your team member to come in and save you. Malika wrote, that's more or less what we do with actors and dancers in our theater company, but I've never seen it in this perspective. That's awesome.
Very good.
Wow. So good. I mean, we're only 15 minutes into this, and I'm just like, this is so
good. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to talk a little bit about SOPs if you want to go there, like true SOPs.
Yeah, give it to us.
All right. So the first thing I want to just kind of, I think it can be inferred what an SOP is just based on the conversations that we're having, but an SOP is a standard operating procedure, and it's just written documentation of a routine task or activity that you do that's done efficiently, right? So that's what it is at its core. But there are several myths about SOPs that I just kind of want to bring to light. One is that this is only for big corporations with teams, or at least one team member, right? Somebody besides the owner. That is not true. Number one, if you are a solopreneur at this point in your journey, I don't know, I have had the experience where in the past I've gone to do something and I'm like, oh, I know I did that 3 years ago, but I don't remember how I did that. And now I have to relearn all the things I did to do that thing. And it's going to waste my time and energy at the future moment, right? So one, you're helping yourself when you're documenting these things, whether you think it's simple or silly or whatever, you're going to help yourself. The other thing is we're not meant to do business alone. Like we got into the business to do the thing we love, but we very quickly, all entrepreneurs I think can relate, we very quickly realize that we have to do all the things we hate too. Like we have to do all the things that when we worked in corporate America, were taken care of for us by people who love doing that one thing. And now we're having to do it all ourselves. So the point isn't to do business alone. The point is to eventually scale our business. The point is to have profit margins so good that we can scale our business. And in order to do that and to do that effectively, we need to make sure that our processes and our systems are in place. And I think we talked about this a little bit earlier. It's like, as a solopreneur, you feel overwhelmed. You feel like there's no time. You feel like you're juggling all the things. But I'm telling you from experience, when you start to go higher, it's a whole new level that you're adding onto your business. And at that point, you do not want to have to go back to the beginning to document everything for this new employee you're bringing on. You want to already have that done. So if you're a solopreneur, even if you're not even thinking about scaling, at some point you will be scaling, you'll be to that point. I want you to start just documenting things as you go now, because it's going to serve you so well in the future when you get to that point of growing. Let's see. Oh, and then the last myth is that SOPs are really daunting and they're overwhelming, and it's a lot, and it just seems like it's a lot for no reason. Like, why am I wasting my time typing away this activity that I know how to do on my own? I don't want to spend my time doing that. I have to have this big portal, which is not true either. Like, there's very simple ways, and because I work a lot with wedding clients, or wedding business owners, I like to kind of relate it back to that. Is like, you have a wedding, and a wedding is not planned in a day, and a wedding is full of a million different parts, but you trust and you know that if you just take simple step-by-step actions along the way, you're going to have this big, beautiful thing at the end of it. Like, it's going to happen. And that's how I want people to start shifting their mindset with SOPs as well. It's like, they're not going to be done overnight. All you have to do is just start small. Like, you just have to start. That's all you have to do. And you just have to keep taking action towards it. And there's some really great tools that I'll share in a little bit in terms of how that can make it a little bit more simple. And then the other mindset shift, because I do think it's a lot of mindset. The other mindset shift is, don't look at an SOP for what it is, like what an SOP is, because at the base of it, an SOP is just words written on a digital document that describe what you do. And that's not sexy. That's not fun. That's not exciting. But if you look at an SOP for the why it is, like, why is this SOP? Like, what this SOP will allow me to identify this thing that I hate and be able to delegate it down the road or tomorrow or whenever. This SOP will allow me to be so efficient in my business in this one area that keeps draining my profits, and my profit margins are going to increase, and I'm going to be able to hire out and do more of the thing that I love. So really getting focused on, why am I creating this SOP as opposed to what it actually is, because it will give you so much. It's going to increase your profits, and it's going to increase your peace, and it's going to allow you to do more of the thing that you love, which is at the core of it, what I'm really passionate about. Like, I want your systems and your processes and your workflows and your automations to serve you in the way that you deserve them to serve you, so you can do more of the thing that you love.
I love that. Focus on the why, not necessarily the what, because the what isn't sexy. It's not inspiring. It's not motivating. But when you remember your why, it becomes much easier. I like how you said, start small and keep taking action towards it. Just document as you go. Someone wrote, I thought this was so true. Someone wrote, where I work, they check in, but nothing changes. So that's like on, again, the business owner, that's on the employer. Is like, you can't just, again, none of this is just to check a box and never do anything with it again.
Right.
The whole point of what Colleen's teaching, right, is like, we're doing it so that we can create change, so we can simplify, automate, fill the gaps, not drain money. But I think that's so true, Terry. I think a lot of places they check the box, I checked in, but nothing changes. And that's why, like, a lot of us have left environments like that, or a lot of us are miserable environments like that. And that also affects the quality of work that's done, the money that could be made that's not being made because you're not motivated, because you're not valued. So yeah, that just highlights what Colleen is teaching so beautifully.
And I think that also, like,
go ahead.
They're really, when they're doing that, they're just doing the what. Like, what do we need to do? Oh, we gotta do this thing, but they're not like embracing the why of behind it, because the point is to say, here's where we're at, how do we get to where we want to go, and did we do that every second?
Yeah, Terry said, I'm on my way out of there. So exactly, it's like, you can tell you're not valued, so you're gonna leave. Know your why. Austin asked, have you tried Scribe IOAI? It has like this recording feature, kind of like Loom, and lets you write and mark up too. I've been meaning to try it. Have you tried that?
Yeah, so that was one of the tools I was going to share. It's Scribe. I think the website's scribehow.com. But one of the things that I have is I'll send a link after we get off here, and I'll put it in the comments or somewhere wherever you tell me to put it. But I have all this written out. But one of them is, I did a Scribe for how to set up an LMS, which I'm going to get into here in a little bit. But it does that. Like, so it's like Loom, where Loom's recording as an extension in the background of your computer. It takes a video of whatever it is you're doing. But instead of doing that, it's following your clicks and your cursor around the screen and taking screen grabs as you go. And then it's putting it in real time into a step-by-step how-to guide. So like, normally when you've done step-by-step how-to guides in the past, it's like, all right, screenshot this. All right, find it in my folder. All right, put it in this document. This does it all in the back end, so it takes zero extra time. It's amazing. I love it. Loom is fantastic. Scribe is fantastic. And Scribe too, you can like merge different steps, and then it creates like just like a little cursor on your screen, just like move it around, so you very simply can see what's going on. But that would be one of my top tools is Scribe.
I love that. Thank you so much for the tools. And after this session is over, you guys, she will Colleen will do a post in our group where she'll like, say thank you and stuff, and then share like her resources or her stuff that she shared in today's call. So you don't have to worry about like, what was that she said? She'll have it all perfectly presented for you in a post in the Insider Extravaganza group.
Awesome. Well, I can move into a little bit about how to get started with SOPs, because I think that's sometimes, because we're in it so much, we don't really realize like, what do I even create an SOP on? Like, you just you're not in that mindset of like documenting the things that you're doing. And so the first step that I always tell people is to do a time audit. And this is one of the resources that I have, but to look at how you're spending your time, because you can't maximize your time. You can't make it more efficient if you don't even know how you're spending your time. So start tracking your time. I like either a journal with like 15-minute increments to really, everything. Every single thing you're doing for 2 weeks, which sounds like a lot, but it's not at all, especially when you know that this is going to pay off tenfold. Just track it down. Like I thought that, I went to do my website and I spent 3 hours on my website. I needed a 4th cup of coffee. I went and made a pot of coffee. My team member came in when I was in the middle of doing whatever and interrupted me. And then we spent an hour and a half having this meeting. So every single thing, track your time. And then at the end of the day, reflect on how that time was spent in terms of like what energized you and fueled you, what drained and depleted you, all these different questions and prompts I have inside this guide that I'm going to share. So that would be the first thing to start with. And then at the end of the week, you're going to reflect again. And where you're wanting to get to is just really being able to understand where you're at with your time, how you're spending it. Is it all over the place? And then also, what are the things, being able to identify the things that you really love doing and the things that you really hate doing. And then that's where I want you to start with the SOP process. So find the thing that you like, you're going to go through this process for 2 weeks. There's a little bit more to it than what I'm sharing here, but it's all going to be in that guide. But at the end of it, I want you to say, okay, I'm realizing that I'm spending a whole lot of time on this thing. It's not moving me towards my goals. It's not getting me to where I need to be. It's not letting me generate revenue or whatever that thing might be. I want to get rid of this thing. And so I went and you to identify the task, not the process, not the project, the task, one small task. And that's what I mean by starting small. Just find one small task and then use that as your SOP, because what that's going to do is it's going to get in your mind, okay, now I have this SOP and I know when I'm ready that I can simply just take this SOP and hand it off to somebody. Like maybe it's not tomorrow, but like I feel so much better knowing that I have it documented, and when I'm ready financially, whatever it might be, I can just hand it off. So that's one way to get started with your SOPs, is just start looking at the things that you're doing every day in your business.
I love that. I think would all be shocked by it. I shared with this, and I think our membership, where a couple months ago, I started working out according to this fitness plan that was made for me. And in between each set, I'm supposed to wait 1.5 minutes. And so I'd always set a timer just so I know, and then I look at 1.5 minutes, I go work out. And in between, I'm like responding messages, I'm going on social media, and every time it always hit 3 minutes. And I'm like, I totally missed my 1.5-minute marker. And I'm like, if I wasn't actually timing this or aware of this, I would have told you I only took a 1.5-minute break between each of my sets. And here I was easily exceeding double the time limit. So I was doubling the amount of time I thought I was actually being true to time, and just something we wouldn't have been aware of if we're not documenting, or as you said, do your time audit. And I think your same principle applies here. Do it for the why, not the what. Because if otherwise, I think you can feel like it's punitive. Like, I don't want to know. I don't want to know where I'm leaking time. I don't want to know where I'm scrolling for too long. But it's like, but you do actually, because it's the whole point of this is to give you more time back. If you find that every day, and I'm speaking to myself, you're scrolling on the internet for 3 hours, and then you say you didn't have time to get your tasks done, you didn't have time to do your money-making activities. Now, with that awareness, can you not only reclaim those 3 hours and start putting those towards your money-making activities or whatever you want for your company, and say that takes you maybe an hour, you now have 2 hours to do something else of your choosing if you so desire. So I love, like, do it for the why, not for the what. We have some notes in here. Great topic. Time reminds me of billable hours when I did legal work. I also had kids do this at school, helped them so much with the phones. Eliminate, optimize, delegate. Love that. I don't have time. Let's take a look. Yeah, so freaking good. I love that. Okay, so people have done a time audit. They find like a simple task that can become their SOP. What would be your next tip for them?
Yeah. So my next tip would be, with it going back a little bit, that guide that I'm going to share, there is a portion there about planning. If we have time at the end, we can talk a little bit more about that. But I will say the biggest service I did for my business was to plan my days, to plan my weeks, because and this is in my personal life as well, because when I do that, not only am I looking and I really have to think consciously about how I'm spending my time, looking at my goals and saying, all right, is doing this thing going to help me move my goal? If I can only do one thing today, what's going to help me get to my goals? And then it helps you really put into perspective, what's a task that can wait? What's a task that can be delegated? All those things. And then same thing in my personal life, like what can I do? What can I plan out? How can I put different things on different days? And what this is going to do too, is it allows you to have this freedom in your mind. So at the end of every day, I plan out, I didn't get it all done. I probably never get it all done, right? I still, at this stage in my business, I still put too much on my plate. I put too much on my plate. But what it allows me to do is say, okay, I didn't get that all done. Maybe it wasn't important. Maybe it is, but now I can plan for it for another day, for another week, for another project, for another quarter, whatever it is. And I just out of my head. Like, I think that's the, like, kind of the theme that I'm hearing. Like, you're getting things out of your employees' heads and onto paper. You're getting things out of your own head and onto paper. Like, it's taken care of. Because what used to happen before I started doing this, it was like, it was all in my head. It was cluttered. It was unorganized. It was stressful. I was anxious because all I could see was the things I didn't get done. But when I plan, I see the things that I will get done. I just haven't done them yet. And that's the same in business and in personal. So like, we throwing in some personal stuff, like I have cleaning days. I clean every single day, but I don't clean the house. Like, I don't clean the entire house every day. It's like, all right, kitchen gets cleaned on this day. Christopher and Callahan's laundry gets done on this day. This thing didn't get done this day, like I had thought it was going to do, or this living room is a mess, but I know that I'm going to clean it on Wednesday. So it just like, it helps me not like just be spinning my wheels all the time of all the things that I have to do, both in business and in home life. It helps me to say that, okay, it's going to be taken care of. I don't have to worry about it.
I would actually like you to expand on that. So I think everyone can relate to that. We keep everything in our head. It feels overwhelming. And how do we get this out of your head? So you gave a couple examples. Can you give a little bit more of a layout for whether it's for a day or a week or a month?
Yeah. Do you want to talk about personal or business?
I'll leave up to you guys. What would you guys want to hear? Would you want to hear more how to plan and schedule out your business or your personal days? What would feel good to you guys? Let me know in the chat. And we'll take a hot minute to just wait for people's responses because it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Someone wrote both. That's amazing. Like, give all of it to us.
And I can
Colleen.
absolutely cover both.
Let's do that
Um,
then.
Okay, well, let's start with business and then we'll move into personal. So business wise, what I like to do, and part of this time audit is finding your buckets. So like finding, like you have marketing buckets, you have like identifying different buckets, you have a financial bucket, like maybe you're scanning in your receipts, you're doing your invoicing, whatever it is. You have your sales bucket, you're having client calls, you're doing proposals, you're doing contracts. So you start to really see like these themes. And then what I do is I have theme days. So like, just because financial is something I talk about, I have financial Friday. And what happens, I think a lot of us in business have heard of this concept of context switching and how we're losing so much time and so much productivity when we're switching from one task to the next to the next. So like if I do an invoice here and I'm like, oh, I got to send that proposal to so-and-so, and I go over here and do the proposal, oh, I got to post that thing on social media, you're actually losing exponential time the more and more you're context switching. So this idea of batching your things together is something that's talked about a lot in business. And when you're doing that time audit, you get to see all the different ways you're spending your time so you can more efficiently batch them. So like, let's say I wanted to do a LinkedIn post or whatever, and I didn't get to it on my marketing Monday. At the end of the day, I can say, all right, do I want to put this somewhere else in the week? Or is it really something that's going to be moving the needle? Is it really something that if I spend my time on this particular task, is that the most highest priority task I can be spending my time on? Normally it's not for me in my personal business. It might be for you depending on where your goals are and how you're structuring things. But normally I just move it to the next marketing Monday and just do it then. Right. I think the biggest thing is just knowing it's going to get taken care of, or it helps me realize like sometimes there's things on my calendar, like it just doesn't get done. Like I put it on this day and then I move it to this day and then I move it to this day. And by that third day, it's like, why isn't it getting done? And does it need to get done? And most of the time it doesn't need to get done. It was just a thing I wanted to do. And maybe it doesn't align with, because I do like my big goals for the weeks and big goals for the quarters. A lot of times it's because it's not aligning with that goal. And I have to be mindful of that. I only have so many hours in the day and in the week and in the quarter. It's not going to fit. Like clearly, Colleen, you've tried to put it on all these different days. You haven't done it. There's a reason. Let's evaluate and get it off there or move it, whatever. So that I think is really helpful. Let's see. I'm trying to think in business terms. I'll move into personal, but as I'm talking about that, if you have more questions about the business stuff, let me know. So personal, I do very similar things. I theme out my days in terms of like what I'm going to be doing that day. And also as I've shared earlier, I homeschool. So my most important day is Sunday. We have a family meeting on Sunday where we're sitting down and we're saying, all right, what do our appointments look like? And like today, as an example, we didn't do a stellar job because I was in Vegas last week and my husband was in Florida last week and we didn't have our meeting. And then we both scheduled a video call at the same time. So I came to my mom's house. I'm actually at my mom's house right now because we work in the same little area of our offices. And so we can't have two Zooms going on at the same time. But when I have my planning days, that helps to eliminate that. So we have that family meeting. And then we also have, I batch and prep on Sundays. Because again, it's just the biggest needle mover is planning, because a lot of times we're just letting things like hit us in the face as we go, where instead of like really looking at the things that need to get done and do they need to get done? And if they do, where do we need to get them done at? So let me know if there are questions around that.
Yeah, that's so good. I liked the buckets. I liked the themes, like, yeah, Marketing Monday, Finances Friday. Like, how can you like chunk it instead of like just scattered everywhere? Is this actually moving the needle? Giving yourself permission to move it to the next week is so good. Austin's like writing a lot of notes, what you're saying, like, then why isn't it getting done? Does it even need to get done? And like releasing ourselves of this burden that maybe doesn't actually need to be done. Maybe have weekly goals, quarterly goals. If they're not aligning, that's maybe a sign to release things. I really like how you said the biggest needle mover is planning. Mm-hmm. It sounds so scary, but I can even relate my own small way. So like I'm on this nutrition plan and I had my assistant make all my meals for the week. And that makes it so easy because it's no longer a question of what I'm going to eat. I already know. And then we just up leveled it this week. It's the first week I'm like, because I have to weigh it each time. Like, you have this many ounces of that. And that, it's just like, oh, it's so annoying. After 2 months, I'm like, I just need you to create actual containers with the exact weight of all the food. So I can grab a container and go. And it's made this week so much easier. Instead of like pulling out the scale and getting the parchment paper and weighing it and I have to clean it all up. It's like, I just grab, heat and go. And I just feel like I've gained so much time and mental space. Like I really do. Like, I think Colleen, like you said, like the theme of this is like getting stuff out of your head and onto paper for yourself personally or for your team. It is so good. Batch and prep moves the needle.
Yeah. Yeah. The batching, like if you think about it, because sometimes, I still sometimes do this where it's like I do the meal batching as well, or snack batching really, because what I was finding, and that's kind of like how, when I say reflect on your days, like that's a really key part as well. Like reflect on what worked, what didn't work, and in your weeks as well. And like I was finding I was going hungry because I didn't have any snacks that felt like they didn't feel energizing and nutritious to me. So I just didn't eat snacks. Like I probably would have been better to eat like something, but because it didn't feel like it was going to fuel my body, I was like, nah, I'll just wait till dinner. So I batch my snacks now on Sundays, and a lot of it can be like, oh, I'm spending 2 hours batching my food today. You're going to spend that time during the week, but at least like now, like you have a set time for it. You know what to like, I can send the kids outside or my husband can help with them and I can put my earpods in or whatever it is. I can make it a more enjoyable experience versus like, oh no, I don't have any snacks. I'm not going to eat, or, oh no, I don't have any snacks. Now I have to whip something up and I don't have time to whip it up right now. So I love what you say about batching. I mean, I know we're talking about food, but it can apply to everything. Like that idea of like spending chunks of time on things that are going to take your time anyways. But if you do them sporadically, then you're going to be losing time in the context switching versus just like batching them all together.
This is so relevant to like even business, because it makes me think like when we don't take the time to plan, like you just said, we either starve ourselves because there's no good options, or we binge. We're like, well, I'm starving now because I've not eaten all day kind of thing. And then we just feel crappy either way. It's like I have no energy over here and I feel gross over here. And like the same thing with business. I think when we don't plan, we go through seasons. So I get this. I've worked with a lot of people over the years and they're like, I'm not making any money. I can't even tell you the last time they've promoted a sale or like promoted a product. Like I'm not making, they're not even selling. How can you be making money if you're not, well, I didn't plan. I don't, or they've noticed they've not planned all month. And it's like the end of the month, they got to make some money fast. So they start like selling stuff like crazy. And it's a little overwhelming and chaotic. And it's like the same thing. They're starving their business or they're binging. And it's a little wonky for the customer experience versus if you planned out, hey, I know I want to launch this week and sell this on that day. You have it all planned. And now you're not starving or binging. Yeah. You have this, a cadence of nutrition, a cadence of offers, a cadence of a flow and rhythm that feels good to you. And it's going to feel good to your people. So I think that, God, it's all connected.
Yeah, I love that. I love that connection that you made between those two. And I do have, it just made me think of this. I didn't put it in the little resource, but this planner, the full focus planner. Oh, you can't see it because of my screen, but I'll share this if I remember. If I forget, somebody remind me. But it is amazing because it lets you. It's just really good at helping you plan and reflect. Like it has all the things that you need in it. It has a section for like your quarterly, your weekly goals. It helps you to really understand where you spent your time and what worked, what didn't work, what you want to add to your week next week, what you want to do differently. So that has been, I'm a paper person though. So if you're not a paper person, maybe not your thing, but it's mine and I love it. And if you're interested in something to help you really get things out of your head and onto the paper, that would be my top recommendation.
I love that. It's like, oh, I love that. Such a helpful connection to that cadence. Yeah, that word cadence like really landed when that came through. And Austin said, same thing. This just landed. I starve, then binge. Oops, I need to plan my food so I can look forward to it. Oh, am I doing that to my business? Good redirect. Totally. And I love I feel like kind of what you're sharing is like this permission and this like beautiful recommendation of like, not only are we planning, which now we're seeing is like actually really beautiful because it's going to give you a cadence and it's going to feel good and it's supportive and nutritious to your business and to your profit at the end of the day, to your peace at the end of the day, to your own body at the end of the day, and reflecting at the end of the day. Like, I feel like if the only two things like that we like, because we're all looking like for a one takeaway, I'm like, the only thing I took from this is giving myself permission to plan a little bit better and taking a hot minute to just reflect. I think that would just infuse our days with so much wisdom and conscious decision making. And like naturally we start like, how do I do this? Or am I wasting my time over here? And just finding a better rhythm for our life and business. This is so good. And yes, we'll remind you, if you forget to post that planner, we'll ask you to please share that in the group. Someone asked, someone has a question. Do you suggest setting aside planning time at different times of the week if you find planning boring or anxiety inducing?
Yeah. So like so to answer that question, and as I'm talking, if you'll expand on that question just a little bit, because I want a little bit more context to be able to answer that better. But I do 100%, that was the thing I was going to say, is schedule your time to plan, like schedule it. Don't just tell yourself you're going to do the thing and then not put it on the calendar, especially when you're getting into the routine and the habit. At the very beginning of this, everything should be like tracking those habits, tracking those routines, making sure that things are scheduled. So at the end of every day, I have 15 minutes and I still put it on my calendar because I know myself and I know that I'm going to be getting like website world or tech world or wherever I'm going to go, wherever world I'm traveling to that day, that I'm going to get like live there for too long if I don't actually have it on my planner. So I put 15 minutes at the end of every day to reflect and to plan, and that process gets more efficient I might start with a little bit more time, or just give yourself more grace at the beginning. Why? Because it's a new habit that you're learning. Maybe still just do 15 minutes and do what you can do, right? And eventually it might be get to down to like 5 minutes. It just depends on what it is your day looks like. But put that time to plan and to reflect at the end of every day. So again, at the, like I do with my journal, or the full focus planner, I just take it and just like close it. I'm done, right? That's my signal to myself, especially for people who are working from home, and we can just like work in our own, like we can work all day, every day if we wanted to, because it's right there. But that's my signal to myself, like it's closed, it's done, it's put up where it needs to be, go, and I will open it tomorrow and I'll do the things. Same with your reflections at the end of the week. I used to, when I had my team in the office with me, as when I was at the resort, it was like, I had it planned on my calendar. I blocked it out. Nobody could schedule appointments with me. Nobody could meet with me. Nobody could come interrupt me. Like, that's my time. I had 2 hours every Friday. And to most people, this might not align with you, but for most people, that seems crazy. Like spending 2 hours to plan seems crazy, but I cannot tell you how much more productive my week was, how much more I got done, how much more I focused on the things that needed to be focused on, versus that actually generated revenue, versus little bitty tasks here and there as they came to me. And in a whim, I knew that I could say no to things because I knew what I needed to get done. And I knew the importance of getting those things done because I spent time planning. So that's what I have to say to that. Was there any more to that question that I can help out
No,
with?
but I'm going to add a couple things to that. I think that's so good. I love that when it's like, if you find it boring or anxiety inducing, I would start really small. So I would start, like she said, 5, 10, 15 minutes. I would not go any bigger than that. And just like, I can do something for 5 minutes, or I can do something for 15 minutes. And like, once that 15-minute timer is up, you're free. So I think start something really small, and you can even start something as small as like once a week. And then I would pick the time of day when you tend to be less anxious. I am the least anxious in the morning. I am the most anxious at bedtime. And so I know for me, I'm going to be much more productive and more like in my power and my flow in the morning when I'm awake, versus when I'm trying to get ready, like towards evening, my anxiety creeps up. So I think being aware of when your anxiety increases. And then something I think would be great for you too is I'm like a puppy. I like treats. I like rewards. I like a good girl. Like I respond well to that. So what I would recommend, if it's anxiety inducing or boring, is give yourself a treat at the end of every time. So if you plan a 15-minute chunk on a Sunday morning, and then you do it, you get to go treat yourself. So have something to look forward to. So you're not just doing the drudgery of this planning, and then you finish it and maybe you feel better, maybe you don't, but you will definitely feel better if you have a treat for yourself at the end of it, whatever that might be. So I think really be your biggest rewarder, cheerleader, and like advocate, and you can treat yourself at the end of that. That's all I'd add to that.
I'll say it's along that treat factor too, is like, I think as you start to incorporate this, and I want to emphasize the importance of giving yourself grace when you're learning when you're incorporating a new routine in your life. And also the other reason for this journal is like there's a routine tracker, and you don't want to start too many routines or new habits at the same time, because that's just unrealistic. You're not going to get them all done. You're going to get overwhelmed and too anxious, and you're not going to do any of them. But sometimes I think you might find that the treat and the reward comes from the planning, because you're going to say, okay, I only want to spend 4 hours in my business today. I want to be able to spend time with my kids or with my family or doing this thing. Okay, I've gone and I've planned out my 4 hours. Maybe it's 4 hours per day. I've gone and I've planned out my 4 hours per day. I can see on my calendar that I have all this time, and I'm going to put in like a field trip day here, or I'm going to put in like a spa day here. Like, that is to me the reward of being able to see, I have a ton to do. I don't need to do it all. I'm going to do the most important things. And then it also is going to allow me to align and integrate the business and the personal home life. So that could be the treat in and of itself.
That's so good. Thank you for that.
All right.
Wow. Wow. Okay. That flew. I'm like, oh wait, wow. I thought we had like 20 some more minutes left. We like
I know.
flew. That was so good. Like, I'm just like, there is so many golden nuggets in here. And really, if you tend to be more anxious, like I'm a more anxious personality, don't overwhelm yourself. The whole reason, and this is why I say, you'll hear me say my business algorithm, this is a buffet. Your job isn't to binge on everything. Your job is, if you can only pick one thing that looks delicious, sounds delicious, feels good to you, I want you to extract that one thing. So there's so much you can take from here. No pressure to take everything. The point is, here's all these different things. What is resonating with you right now in your business or in your personal life? And if you can only take away one thing, that is more than enough, because if that was more than what you had before the session, And the beautiful thing about this extravaganza is you can come back and watch the replay. So if you feel like you got something now, but there was something that kind of resonates with you, but you're not ready for that yet, come back and watch this a week from now, a month from now, 6 months from now. This information is here for you. This was so good. Colleen, is there any last thing that you wanted to share, wrap up? Any other tools or tips for this for us?
Yeah. So I think just keeping integrity with the idea of SOPs, talking about SOPs, I do want to say a couple of things to that. So one is people think that it has to be this big, beautiful portal hub thing of all the SOPs and all the things that they've ever done in all their life. And it doesn't. It maybe one day you get it there, but that's not necessarily the point. This is going to be a journey, and the destination is not a big, beautiful portal. The destination is being able to do the things you love and having fun in your business. So that's one thing that I want to say. The other is you don't have to incorporate a new technology. So there's all these different portals out there for SOPs specifically. Lots of times they're expensive. And it's a new tech. So you have to learn a new tech. Just start. I think Nicole was sharing, like, just start with what you have, like a Google Docs, Microsoft Office, whatever you're already using, just do that. It works, one, because it's going to help you take action, because you're not going to be like, oh, I got to learn this new tech. Oh, I got to learn how to like upload everything to this portal. It works in that capacity because it's going to allow you to take action, but it also works because you're going to you want to own your assets. You want to own your SOP. So if you're using a portal or a hub, like let's say, I think Trainual is one. I don't recommend that just because it's so expensive for what it is for most business owners. But let's say you have this that you want to start incorporating, and you go into that portal and you start documenting everything within Trainual, then you don't own those assets. You don't have them, versus starting where you're at in Google Docs or Microsoft Office and then uploading them into that portal. And then the last thing is, if you do want to have a portal of sorts, and you don't want to pay for it, which I recommend you don't pay for it. There's learning management systems. So people often associate Kajabi. Unfortunately, they don't have a free plan to my knowledge, but Teachable and FreshLearn both have free plans, and they were not created for the purpose of SOPs, but they work really, really well for them, because you can track when your employees log in, you can track their progress, you can quiz, gamify, reward, all the different things, and still stay on that free plan. So I have all of that I'm going to be sharing in that resource. I just wanted to make sure that I touched on that so that content makes sense when it comes out in the post. But yeah, I think that's about wraps up everything that I wanted to make sure to touch on today.
Wow, that is excellent. Thank you so much for those resources. And I loved what you said, to start with what you have, right? Keep it simple. The point isn't to like make it complicated. And this is what our brains want to do. It's so complicated, we can never do it. No, we can start right where we're at and we grow from there. And like she said, start small and you just keep making movement in that direction. Yes, Nicole said this was amazing. Thank you. And thank you for those resources. Where can people find you, Colleen? If they are resonating, they're like, oh my God, you're a genius at this. I could use help with planning. I could use help with my team, with my company, with my personal life. Like, what is the best way for them to find you and to find out the different offers you have available?
Yeah. So you can find me on Instagram at Smoky Blue Events, online at smokyblueevents.com. Most of my content is geared towards wedding professional marketing wise. So like, I talk a lot about wedding professionals, but I work with businesses of all kinds. So even though it says on there wedding professionals, just substitute in whatever it is that you do, because this goes across all industries, right? So those would be the best places to find me.
I love that. This goes across all industries. This is why I love what you do. Like, and you're such a pro at this. So thank you, everyone. Check her out. She will also be doing a post inside the group with all the links and resources. You can also click her name here in Facebook and follow her to her page. Thank you, Colleen, for bringing your expertise and your passion and your knowledge to us. Thank you for sharing it for our personal lives and our business lives. Like, so helpful, so insightful. And I know also just the tip of what you have to offer. So thank you for the generosity of your time and your giving in this moment. And thank you to everyone for attending live. Just a reminder, we have a bonus session on Monday, yikes, I should have the date memorized. Monday, November 27th at 1 p.m. Pacific time, where we are doing a giveaway of prizes. We have a whole thing planned. So if you are able to come to that, please come. And the way you get entered is just by engaging. Whether you show up live or watch a replay, when you comment, your name gets into the drawing. So we can always do more giveaways. And our next session will be tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific time with Janessa, who's teaching on how to heal and rise stronger. I love you. You're amazing. Someone said, thank you for all your golden nuggets. Can't wait to learn more. Thank you, Colleen. Thank you, everyone. This was fantastic. And we will see you guys tomorrow morning at 9 a.m.